experience here in the Georgia State Senate is going to help you in the U.S. Senate?
Well, I was in the Georgia House of Representatives.
House of Representatives, yes.
I was chairman of the House Judiciary Committee for 4 years, and I was chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee that dealt with Medicaid and the Department of Human Resources. I had to balance the budget every year, year after year after year, make hard decisions about the things we could afford. There's none of that discipline in Washington, and I believe that will serve me well when I go to Washington. First of all, I really understand Georgia and what Georgians need and what the programs are that the federal government provides in Georgia. And I know how to make hard decisions about making sure that the budget is under control. And also am focused on helping the people and not the special interest. That's my entire public life has been involved with that. So much of the decisions that are being made in Washington right now deal with who's the most powerful and who has the most money. I won't stand for that.
Let's go to a tax question. Hello.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Martin. My question is, could you please explain the differences in your tax plans? The Saxby Chambliss is saying that you're going to increase taxes if you voted for that, but you're saying that you're more in line with Barack Obama's plan?
Well, I am more in line with Barack Obama's plan, which is to provide middle-class tax relief. Saxby Chambliss is for continuing the economic policies that have gotten us in this problem in the first place, to continue the tax breaks for the special interest and the powerful and the wealthy. We can't afford that. If we're going to provide middle-class tax relief, we've got to look at some of the tax breaks that big oil and other people have gotten. You know, in the financial bailout plan, they adopted a special regulation and gave special tax treatment to banks buying other banks. We can't afford that. We need to make sure we focus on the middle-class tax relief so that people have a little bit of money in their pocket, they can pay their mortgages, take care of the cost of education, and do other things. And that's what's going to get this economy growing. So there's a big difference between Jim Martin and Saxby Chambliss. I believe the economy is built from the bottom up. That as long as people have money in their pockets, everybody prospers. I don't believe in trickle down because I hadn't seen it. They've had 8 years for that to work, and it's been a disaster.
Let me ask you this. We're joined once again, Jim Martin, who is running as our senator against Saxby Chambliss. Saxby is not here because of a scheduling conflict. But I wanted to ask you, be specific for a moment, excuse me, on what you would do. You're in the Senate, and they come to you and say, Jim, what do you think we ought to do? Specifically, don't just generalize it,
Sure.
Be real specific.
Well, I think, first of all, we need to get control of our federal budget. You know, we have $1 trillion deficit this year. That's incredible. We've got to make hard decisions. When I was commissioner in Georgia Department of Human Resources beginning 2 weeks after 9/11, and we had to reduce the budget by $150 million, we had to change programs that I love dearly, but I had to make some responsible decisions for the taxpayers to balance the budget. And you've got to do. There's none of that discipline in Washington. So that's the first thing. Insist on economic discipline. We can't afford $10 billion that we're spending in Iraq right now, for example. We just can't afford that as a nation. We need to end that war, bring our soldiers, men and women home, end that war responsibly.
And you say that as a Vietnam vet.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. And it's not to say that the men and women who've been fighting in Iraq haven't been doing an extraordinary job. They've done their job. Mission accomplished. They've done exactly what they needed to do. It's time now for the people of Iraq to stand on their own 2 feet and for us to bring our soldiers home. They have an $80 billion surplus, and we're still spending $10 billion a month in Iraq. That's the first kind of issue that I'll deal with. The second is the economy needs to get moving, but we need to do it in a smart way. Providing financial assistance to the wealthy and assuming that they're going to fix this problem is not the right philosophy. I believe that the President-elect has put together an extraordinary economic team that understands that and will work for a stimulus package that will help provide jobs for working Americans. That is where our economy is going to get started again. It's not going to be giving money to banks to buy other banks. That makes no sense. It only makes sense to people who have been in Washington too long, who support